Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to this week's episode of Maconomics. I'm your host, Ross Mack, and I'm here to try to help you get to a bag. Now today, we're not gonna be taking the caller, but more so, we're trying to focus on how to build Black generational wealth. Now it's Black History Month, right? So we wanna learn from the past in order to actually change the future. So when we actually look at Black people and our relationship with money historically, it's very troubling, right? The primary reason is because wealth has been strategically and intentionally kept from Blacks in America. Right, by design, the system has always found a way to keep Blacks from attaining wealth. Now we obviously know it's gonna stem from slavery, and that ranged to redlining, to predatory lending, and just outright theft. Right, imagine after the Civil War, Black people were supposed to get a bank, and instead this bank, that was actually called Freeman's Bank, ended up mismanaging our money through fraudulent investments and lost over 60,000 depositors' money worth $3 million. And that was back in the 1800s. That same $3 million would be worth over $60 million today. Now this actually robbed Black people of their savings, as well as a psychology that made Black people just not trust banks. And then you got 2008 crisis, right? Where Black people literally lost half of our net worth to the housing crisis and unemployment. And to actually fast forward to today, Black spending power is $1.6 trillion as of 2021. That sounds powerful, right? Well, since 2001, the Black household net worth is actually down by 14%, while over that same time frame, the overall U.S. net worth is actually up. And to put that in perspective, the stock market was up 27% and the real estate market was up 31% last year. Yet we didn't participate in this wealth creation because we don't own enough assets. Unfortunately, we spend more than we invest, and we make less than our counterparts. And to make matters worse, by year 2053, the Black net worth is actually expected to reach zero. And so you know what the goal is, man? Just to make sure that never comes true. We have to figure out how we can actually reverse this statistic. And the blueprint is obviously to study the Black people that came before us to actually put those lessons into real life practices. So if you look at, Black Wall Street, for instance, with OW Gurley, he gave us the blueprint. It was to support Black businesses. And guess what? Back then, the dollar was circulating in our communities a lot longer. Right today, the dollar gonna leave the Black community after 6 hours. Over 100 years ago in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when we had Black Wall Street, well, that dollar could circulate for about a year before leaving. Then we could even look at Reginald Lewis. Just like OW, he was actually once the richest Black man in the US. And how? He was an investor, right? He started out as a lawyer, then went into private equity. And at the time, when it was an anomaly to actually see Black guys on Wall Street, Reginald ended up dominating, right? He ended up literally buying a grocery store conglomerate and making it the first Black-owned business to literally make over $1 billion in the 1980s. And then we can fast forward to present day when you got my dog Robert F. Smith, and he literally picked up where Reginald left off. And guess what? He's also the richest Black man in the US. Most people, right, really didn't even hear about him until he actually was known for paying off the graduating class at Morehouse and all their student loans, right? But how did he actually get this type of bread, right? He also had a background in private equity, right? He got a private equity company called Vista Equity Partners. Now the commonalities among all these three Black men is that they invested, right? The reality is that the Black net worth will surely go to zero if we don't learn how to invest and invest more. The next thing is to understand that investing in Black businesses is also important with helping keep the Black dollar in the community a lot longer. So when it comes to investing, right, the power of the internet has made it easier than ever to not only invest, but to also learn how to properly invest, right? You don't need to graduate from Harvard or Wharton to learn that buying the S&P 500 every month could actually help you retire as a millionaire, right? 90% of the world's millionaires acquired their wealth through real estate. And there were many misconceptions about real estate, and now we actually know you only need 3.5% to put down instead of the 20% that a lot of people thought to buy a home. And you can start out by buying a multi-unit crib where you can live in one unit and rent out the other units. And guess what? Your tenants will actually end up paying your mortgage for you. Right at the end of the day, Black content creators are putting on for the culture by helping bring these taboo topics of money to life and actually making it easier to digest. Today you get, the likes of Maconomics. You got my podcast, Money Music Culture, with my dog, Brandon Copeland. We got Earn Your Leisure and that whole network with Rashad Troy and MG, and that's just to name a few, right? But investing is the only way to get ahead in this world, right? We have to own stocks and real estate. We also have to purchase life insurance policies as part of our overall estate planning process. But at the end of the day, receiving the knowledge is only half the battle. And the next step is implementation, right? Here you have to understand there are various resources that could actually help repair the damaged relationships that Blacks have with banks. Now, what better way to actually repair that relationship than potentially banking with Black-owned banks, right? You got One United Bank, which is the nation's largest Black-owned bank, and you got Greenwood Bank, definitely worth looking into, right? And at the end of the day, we got companies like State Farm that are allies, and as part of their commitment to being a good neighbor, they support minority communities through charitable community investment efforts. State Farm is committed to financial resources to support minority communities and issues of racial equity and justice. And their contributions support a variety of community-focused projects, including small business support, funding for affordable housing programs, and educational advancement programs. So look, at the end of the day, what's the goal? The goal is to make sure the black net worth never reaches zero by 2053, or better yet, ever in life, right? So how will you contribute? Will you start supporting black-owned businesses? Will you start investing? Will you start letting your mom and your cousins know to also invest? And what will you be doing to help contribute to our cause?